during 2025, I did let myself not finish books that I wasn't enjoying. The people pleaser in me would always push through books even though I'm not enjoying them, and it was not a pleasant experience for me. It felt like homework, it felt like a chore, it felt like torture at some point. Am I into celibate monks? Maybe. Am I gonna have to look into that? Because the whole time I'm craving more information about the political system or like the magic system, but like we're spending so many chapters of just the two characters being horny. That's it. I hate predictability. Maybe it's my ADHD. I really don't care about a guy's thoughts. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hi, I'm MalBread, welcome to One Hell of a Reader, and I'm excited for this video because I am doing an yearly wrap-up of all the books I have read during 2025. I'm also including all the manga I've read, all the comic books I've read this year. I'll separate this video into two parts. The first one will be me talking about all the books and manga and comic books I've read this year, and the second one will be more about some numbers and also my physical collection. I am a numbers girly. I have studied in STEM, and I love tracking whatever I end up doing. I will also like to share my upcoming reading goals and also like the stats related to my physical library. And to make this video more interesting for you guys and also for me while I'm editing this video, I have made a tier list of all the books I have picked up during 2025, whether I finished them or not, whether I DNF'd them, and I will be ranking them today and also talking a little bit about them. If I happen to talk about a book or a manga that you are planning on reading or you have read, feel free to drop your thoughts in the comments below. For the past few years, I've been challenging myself to read 52 books in an year, 52 books because there are 52 weeks in an year. That is the number that I've been always setting for my Goodreads goal. And this year I have surpassed that number, probably because I've been reading a lot of manga and listening to a lot of audiobooks while I'm commuting to university. So according to my Goodreads challenge, I have read 68 books. I purposely read an extra book on my Kindle right before the year ended because I didn't want to leave the number at 67. During 2025, I did let myself not finish books that I wasn't enjoying. The people pleaser in me would always push through books even though I'm not enjoying them, and it was not a pleasant experience for me. It felt like homework, it felt like a chore, it felt like torture at some point. According to my tier list that I made, I have 77 images, so like 77 books and manga and comic books I've picked up, and only a few of them I have DNF'd. The order here is very random. I don't think they are in the chronological order that I have picked them up. I'm not gonna start with the one they suggested. Let me just scramble them up a little bit. Oh, The Little Prince. Okay, this, I have never read this growing up, mainly because it's a French book. I know there are translations out there, but growing up, I didn't know French and I was in the middle of learning French. So I never had the guts to like pick up this book and like read it. And by the time that I was good enough in French, I was like in high school. I completely forgot that this book existed. So I never picked it up. But in recent years, I watched the movie and I really, really enjoyed it. And then this year, while I was scrolling through my Libby app, I noticed that they had an audiobook version of The Little Prince. So I finally ended up reading it and I really liked it. It was really enjoyable. I was imagining the book and the story in my head while I was listening to the audiobook, and also was I also had like a specific art style in my head because I watched the movie prior to reading the book. But yes, I think it is one of my favorites of all time. I see myself rereading this, and I also see myself recommending this to younger audiences. Anyways, I loved it. Okay, I see the book Rising Kings. That's suggested to me, but it's a trilogy and it's the third book. So I'm gonna go with The Captive Prince. Oh my gosh, did I love this freaking book. I love how this author writes. So I'm gonna be placing the whole like trilogy in my 5-star reads fave of the year because I was flying through these books. I was reading them on my Kindle, but I think the books are like pretty short. I thoroughly enjoyed the characters and also the character developments that they have. I think out of the 3 books, I'm just gonna place them all here. Rising Kings is the third one, and then The Prince's Gambit is the second, I believe. I enjoyed, if you asked me which book is my favorite out of all 3, it would have to be the second one because that is where we get the 2 main characters like actually being friends and slowly falling for each other. And also I think this was the first BL book for me this year, which made me watch more like BL anime later on in the year. Also, let me know if you want me to make a compilation of all the anime I've watched during 2025 so I can like make a video. I know, I'm enjoying myself. I think I'm gonna keep doing these. The first book, I loved it, but it was really, really, really spicy and it was like really intense. And during the whole first book, I was wondering how they're gonna end up being friends or even liking each other because one of them is so mean to the other. I was cringing from the pain that one of the main characters were going through because of the other main character. But I love this author's writing style. I was planning on picking this author's like trilogy up because I was in the middle of reading their comic book Fence. I'm gonna place it on the 4th star tier because it's almost perfect. There are some down times, and sometimes the comic develops on characters that I personally don't really care about, but I'm still not done reading the comic. I don't think I can count this as a volume because I think online they have like the separate chapters and everything. Anyways, it's almost perfect. I see myself finishing this comic. It's really, really good. I like her writing style and fencing. I've never read anything related to fencing now that I think about it, but it's still very enjoyable. Highly recommend it. Now that I think about it, one of my absolute favorite books from this year was Dark Rise for sure by the same author. I'm gonna put it in the 5-star tier. I did not see the plot twist coming. I'm not gonna spoil it for you guys, but we do follow a boy main character, which was for me refreshing for once because the books that I've been recently picking up have been girls. I've been reading a lot of romantasy, mainly because they're either trending or because my friend told me so, because my friend loves romance and romantasy. But personally, me as an asexual, I never like lean into that. I found it really refreshing that the main plot of the story was like the fantasy element and figuring out where your family is from and stuff like that. So, and having a maybe romance subplot. Uh, Anyways, very well built. And I'm also placing the second book of the trilogy. I think it's going to be a trilogy in the 5-star tier as well. I flew through these books. Each book took me less than a week and I was in the middle of finals. So they're very good. Also love the art on the covers. Next, we have The Women. Also, I picked this up because I think this came out during 2025, and a lot of people were saying the book is really good, and I've heard great things about this author. I think I've read a few of her books in the past. She writes beautifully, and right after picking up this book, I was like, shit, didn't I tell myself that I would not read any more books or watch any more media that has to do with women's suffering? Because as a woman myself, I do be suffering a lot. I do see women or femme presenting people in my life suffering a lot, and I'm like, you know what? If I plan on escaping reality, why choose a fictional world where women are also suffering? But anyways, still love this book. I really enjoyed the first half of the book where the main character was young. She is a nurse in the military during the Vietnam War. We see a girl transform into a woman who initially was a very superficial girl who was raised in a very rich family, but then seeing what was actually happening at the front lines was really traumatizing for her. And then my heart was really crying out to her during the second half of the book when she comes back after the war and people don't treat her respectfully, and they were not treating the veterans with as much respect or with any respect compared to the previous war when the veterans would come back to the US. And it was really heartbreaking reading this book. It's almost perfect. The second half was a little drag, but I still very much enjoyed it. Was very sad also. Moving on. Okay, what is this? A Dark and Drowning Tide. First of all, I picked this up because the cover is gorgeous. I don't know who the artist is, but I need to follow them on their social media. At first, I thought it was like one boy, one girl, but no, it's like two girls, and it's a sapphic romance. I'm like, ooh, interesting sapphic romance. For once, something not following the norm, and I was bored. I think I read up to 25%, and it was a drag. It was so boring, and I think we were following both POVs. The atmosphere was very interesting, very dark, very gloomy. It had witchy elements in it, but I was so bored. I did not care about either of the characters, and I DNF'd it. I did not push myself to keep reading. It was a bore. Also, I've been reading a lot of manga this year, and I wanna go pick out the manga series that I binged read because it was available on my library app, on my Libby app. So I was like, this looks good. Let me pick it up. Here's the first volume. So the series is called Tales of the Tendo Family. So we follow these two characters. The main character is the girl. She seems to be like an airhead, but also she loves helping people. And while she was doing her chores near the river, she sees a body floating by, and it's a girl, and she saves her. And the girl is like, "Oh, I'm trying to escape from a marriage." So the main character is like, "Okay, how can I help you? Do you want me to take your place?" So she ends up taking the place of that girl. The premise looked so interesting. The girl that she was helping, she said that the family was really sketchy. They're very violent. They have weird family members. Even the guy who she got fiancé to was very sketchy and very violent. Anyways, I knew nothing going into this manga series, and I thought it would be a type of relationship where the two main characters don't like each other. With time, they're gonna slowly start liking each other. They're gonna become friends, and then they're gonna have to like face family problems or like other missions together. Okay, let me pull up all the volumes I've read. I think I'm gonna, first of all, I'm gonna place this in the third position. I kept reading, thinking it would get better. Sometimes I would even start the next volume because we would get introduced to a new character, a new family member, and they seemed very, very interesting, but they also ended up being really weird in the head, just like the guy main character. I don't know how I read this far. I don't know what was going through my head. Let me just put this at the correct position. I was entertained, sorta, but it's very forgettable. And also how all the covers are drawn. It looks very like, oh my gosh, they're finally liking each other. Oh my gosh, the guy is not gonna be an asshole with her, finally. But no, he keeps being an asshole with her. I kind of regret spending this much time reading that series. To be honest with you, I could have been reading something else. Ooh, okay, now this is another manga I read. It was really good. I found this on the Libby app, and I even heard a few people online talking about this manga called Let's Do It Already. So it's two high school students, very cutesy, and they're dating each other. But the guy comes from a family where presidents are born into these families. So they always have to think about their family's reputation. So he can't really like touch her in public or spend that much time with her in public. And he's always busy doing homework, family stuff, political stuff. But she's like, I'm just a regular high school girl. I just want to spend time with my boyfriend. And she just wants to be lovey-dovey and cute with her boyfriend, but he doesn't have the time for that for her. But it's still fine because sometimes he cheats the system. He cheats his family security system to spend some time with her. Like, I remember at one point in the first volume or the second one, they're both in his family's limousine. And even then, they can't hold hands or get too close to each other because there are cameras everywhere. But towards the end of the scene, like at some point, like she drops something and he helps her pick up all the papers and everything. And then he's like, oh, I know where the blind spot is in this car. And they like almost kiss. And it was like, ah. I really, really enjoyed it. I see myself reading more volumes from this series. It's not a 5-star read. Like, I would not cry if I don't end up like continuing this series. So far, I have read 3 volumes from this series. Where's the second one? Okay, there you go. It's really fun. It's cutesy. Every volume, something happens, a major plot happens, and they get to know about each other a bit more. And it's wholesome. I like it. It's nice to read something that's not spicy but spicy. So the next book that I picked up was All the Light We Cannot See. One of the main reasons why I picked up this book was because I knew that a show came out inspired by this book. I told myself that I would read the book first before picking up the show. There are multiple POVs, but mainly it's about characters in France during Germany occupation. And one of the main characters is a blind girl who is in the middle of France, and she has to hide a special diamond. But anyways, very interesting plot. It kept dragging on. Like, I was like, okay, I get the point. Let's get on with it. And then I knew there was like some romance in this story, but like I really did not care about the characters. At one point, I was like, okay, we get the point. Can we move on? And then the final scene was happening, and it dragged on and dragged on. And I'm not gonna spoil it to you guys, but like the ending was very anticlimactic. I was entertained, but it was forgettable. I'm not gonna be too harsh. I'm not gonna put it in the 2 star, but it's a solid 3. Oh my gosh, the next freaking book. This book made me pull my hair out because I was like so bored and I hated the writing style. The book was like poetic for no reason, and the sentences were like, okay, they're very well written, but like where's the story going? And I did not care about the main character. I did not care about the male interest. It's just spicy story in a fantastical world, and there are dragons, but we don't see any dragons until, I don't know, the end of the first book. The premise looked so freaking good. One of the main reasons why I picked up this book was because the friend who I game with and who also started reading more recently, she bought the physical copy of this book. So I'm like, okay, if you plan on reading this, if I have some free time, I might also pick this up. So I started reading it. I'm like, okay, it's a very flowery writing. Is it gonna get better? At first, I was enjoying it. Honestly, I really enjoyed the first few chapters, and then I was like, there's nothing much happening. The character is not interesting, and where are the dragons? And I actually dragged myself to the 50% mark and I stopped. I did not give a shit about the world. I did not give a shit about what's going to happen next. And then there's like weird spicy scenes and there's no mental connection between the guy and the girl. Anyways, it's just like spicy just for spicy reasons. And she's just writing in flowery sentences just because she wants to write in flowery. I feel like I wasted enough words on this book. But anyways, I DNF'd it. So 1 star, there you go. After DNFing that book, I remember picking up One Dark Window because that's the other book that my friend was interested in reading. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start reading it. If you start reading it too, we can both talk about it. It's super good. I very much enjoyed this author's writing style. I liked how gloomy the world is. I like the world building, how there are these tarot cards that give whoever owns them special powers. And the main character, she has this demon inside of her head who talks to her in rhymes. I very much enjoyed the interaction between her and that weird little demon she has in her head. The love interest was interesting to read about as well. He was the grumpy, shadowy type at first, but after that, he started being super soft and interested in her. Classic. I personally love stories where we have a main plot or like a mystery plot or a fantasy plot, and then there's like a subplot that has romance. For this one, finally, the romance was-ish kind of a subplot, but we did know right away who would be the love interest. I want to place this at 5 stars. I want to place it at 5 stars. But I haven't picked up the second book yet because I'm like, I can wait. It's not that memorable. I mean, it's almost perfect. Okay. If you really had to like twist my arm and to ask me like what my specific rating would be for this book, it would be a 4.8. 4.8. It's almost perfect, but sometimes it would drag on. And I did not care about some of these scenes that were happening. But it's still a very, very good book. Not good enough to be a fave of the year. But I do see myself picking up the second book this year. Oh my gosh. Okay, before I forget, while I still have energy while recording, I want to talk about Onyx Storm. Girl, why did she even publish this? It was such a waste of time. I rarely write reviews on Goodreads, but this one made me like rage write a review on Goodreads because, oh my gosh, I was so sick and tired of reading about bitching and moaning. I can't even English properly. Bitching and moaning between the characters. And it was like nothing much is happening, but it's just like relationship tension. And then they're making out again. And like what's political wise, I wanted to know more. And I feel like the author could have just skipped this book, or I don't know, spent more time on this book and polishing it. I DNF'd it. I'm not gonna pick up this series again. I enjoyed the first book. It was a little spicy for me. The political side of it all, the action side of it all, the dragons details was what made me want to keep reading until I picked up the third book. And oh my gosh, greedy. This is a cash grab. I'm done. Oh my gosh. Okay, next I want to talk about Sunrise on the Reaping. I loved this book. I loved following Hamish as a teen and what happened during his game. Every scene, whatever happened in this book, I was hooked. I binged this book. I enjoyed this better than A Song of Songbirds and Reaping, the one before that about snow. By the time I'm filming this, I don't think the movie is out yet, but I do plan on watching it as soon as it's available on streaming. One of my favorite reads of this year. Loved it. Oh, okay. I remember picking The Night and the Moth. I loved the world building. I loved the main character and the fact that there are gargoyles who you can interact with. The story dragged on a little bit, but I didn't care because I was craving interactions between her and like the love interest. At first, I didn't think he was the love interest at first. I thought it would be one of the princes, but he ended up being one of the knights. And I liked the little details that the author always slips into conversations or interactions we get between the two characters. I enjoyed One Dark Window. I enjoyed The Night and the Moth even more. It is definitely one of my favorite reads of 2025. I do see myself picking up the next book ASAP or any book that this author comes out with because I really, really enjoy her writing style. Impossible Creatures. I don't know why I picked up this book. I think it was available on my Libby app and it's a middle school book. The premise looked really interesting. It had to do with a girl who could fly and then a regular boy who lives on the ground and then they end up like meeting and there's like a mystery to solve. Anyways, I did not care about the characters. I did not care about the world. I ended up DNFing it. For a kid's book, for a middle school book, it was really, really boring. Okay, next I have to talk about Yona of the Dawn. It's one of my favorite animes ever. And I do see myself rewatching this soon because I recently found out there's gonna be a second season finally after like what 10, 15 years. I found the manga on the Libby app and I binge read it. And I do see myself reading the manga while I wait for the second season to come out. If you haven't picked it up yet, please do. Like the romance is not like the main plot. It's a subplot, but there's actually like political stuff happening. There's battles happening. Way more interesting to follow in my humble opinion. Oh, Calabasas is next on the list. I binged this book up to the 80% mark. I loved the two main characters and I loved the conversations that we were having between those two. At one point, I'm not going to spoil it, but at one point, we only get the POV of one of the characters, the girl's character. And I was like, hey, this is very boring. Where is this going? What is the point of all of this? While I was reading the final 20% of the book, I was deathly bored. And if you had told me what to rate this book right after finishing this book, I would have rated it like a 4.0, a strict 4.0. But now that I let myself think about the characters and also her writing style and what was the purpose of them going to hell, and I'm gonna like bump it up to 5 stars because the two characters, whatever they were doing, they were pulling each other out from their own personal hell. And I loved reading about both of their POVs, especially the boy main character's POV. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's really good. If you haven't read it already, please do. I recently found out that R.F. Kuang wrote this heavily inspired after her relationship with her husband. I've seen some art, official art that they put in the book. The two characters look like her and her husband. And I love that little detail. I'm gonna put Calabasas in 5 stars. Okay, so I have been reading a lot of R.F. Kuang recently. My first time reading R.F. Kuang was when I was reading her Poppy War series. It was so depressive. It was heart-wrenchingly good, but oh my gosh, I couldn't wait for the torture to end. She writes beautifully. This year I read a lot of like R.F. Kuang. Yellowface. I enjoyed Yellowface. It was horrible. Okay, do I put it in 5 stars? Do I put it in 4 stars? I'm gonna put it in like almost perfect because I hated, but at the same time, was that the goal of the author? I hated following the thought process of a snobby, entitled white person. I think R.F. Kuang did a very good job putting us in her mindset. I liked the premise of the story, but I feel like the story could have been shorter. I don't know. Sometimes it dragged on. I don't feel like putting it in the 5-star tier, but I feel like it fits more appropriately in the almost perfect tier. I enjoyed it. I breezed through it. But like I said, like the second half of the book was dragging. I'm trying to remember what my first book of the year was, but I do remember one of my first books of 2025 was um, Mexican Gothic. I love the premise. I love the main character. It was really gross. At one point, a very gross old man was trying to kiss the main character, or he actually kissed her. Anyways, it was gross. And it was torture reading this. But I'm gonna place this in almost perfect. It was good. I'm gonna recommend this to people if they're in the mood for some gothic horror. This book did a fantastic job. Okay, next I want to talk about Foxglove King. We follow a main character who can bring back the dead for like a limited amount of time. Anyways, she has a connection with dead people and she has to team up with a monk and then some type of prince. They have to figure out why so many people are dying and so why so many bodies are being hidden. The premise looked very, very interesting, but like I did not give a shit about what was going on. I think the only reason why I ended up continuing and finishing this book was because something happened which I was not expecting. Should I say it? Skip like a minute if you don't want to listen to it. I was sure that the main character would like fall in love or like be more interested in like the prince, the other guy character, not the monk because they have to be celibate. Because of that little element, and the fact that they actually liked each other and there was like tension between them, but they didn't do anything. But the fact that like he couldn't do anything, but he wanted to, like I don't know why that got me. That little relationship made me like finish the book. I was pretty satisfied with the ending. 3 stars. I was entertained, but it was a very forgettable book. If you ask me what the main plot was, I can't tell you, but I will tell you in detail what was happening like between her and the monk character. He was kind of, anyways, in my head he was kind of schmexy and like he was holding back. I personally like those types of characters where they're not like openly like into you and like, hey baby girl. Oh, I can't with that. Am I into celibate monks? Maybe. Am I gonna have to look into that? Oh, next I want to talk about The Mask of Mirrors. This is a fantasy book. I'm just telling you guys right off the bat, I DNF'd it. I really wanted to like it, but I liked the premise. We're in old Italy trying to solve like mysteries. This the main character is conning people into giving them more status, more money, but like she gets too involved with these people and she ends up like helping them solve mysteries or like crimes and stuff like that. But like everybody would mention like how pretty she is, how smart she is, but we don't actually see her being smart. And it's so boring. The starting is so boring, and I didn't really like the writing style, so I just DNF'd it at like the 20% mark or the 30% mark. I really tried liking it, but the main character was very unlikable. It was really boring. Everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, she's so pretty, she's so smart." I'm like, "Okay, then show me." My eyes keep falling toward Wicked movie so far. By the time I'm filming this, I've only watched the first movie and I rewatched it because I really liked it. I rewatched it again with my mom. I do see myself watching the second movie as soon as it's available on streaming services. I told myself I want to read the book first before watching the movie. The book was, oh my gosh, I'm gonna put this in 2 stars because I love the world building, but I finished it, but at what cost? It was painful. The way he writes is very interesting and also very sexual in nature, and it doesn't make sense. Sometimes he's describing sceneries and he's making it into like a sexual like scenery of a naked woman just like lying there. Like, what the fuck are you saying? I hated the writing style. I like the world building, but sometimes we would go into detail about like unimportant characters that we do not give a shit about. Like Alphaba's mom. Like we had, I think that 20% of the book is just like not Alphaba. It's just her and her like biological dad, and then her dad, and then like the city that they live in, Munchkinland. I was bored about it. I told myself I would read through it because I want to watch the movie. And people say that the movie has more to do with the musicals than the book. I think I should have just like watched the musical instead of like torturing myself into reading the book. But anyways, I own a physical copy of the first and second book. And I'm like, okay, let's read it. Like, why else did I spend my money on a physical copy if I don't read it? But anyways, I hated it. I hated every second of it. I'm gonna see if I can like sell my copies. Never again. I think after that point, I told myself, if I want to DNF a book, I'm gonna DNF it. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is Days at the Murasaki Bookshop. I loved the main character. I liked the premise. I think the main character, if I remember well, she was depressed and she ends up like staying at like a family member's house slash bookshop. So her uncle is pretty eccentric. He's been owning this bookshop for a while now, and it's pretty messy, but it's super cozy. She's depressed, but at the same time, she ends up like spending time with him, and in the bookshop, she starts feeling better. I loved the first half of the book because it actually had to do with the Murasaki bookshop. But then the second half is like she ends up going back home, or she moves on with her life, and it had nothing to do with the bookshop or the uncle or like the little village. So I was like, so like what's the point of me keep reading this? I still finished it. I don't want to be too harsh with the book because I loved the first half. I loved the first half, but like I wasn't I'm gonna say I was entertained but forgettable. I was also grateful that the book was short so that I didn't have to be like tortured that long. But I love the writing style, very entertaining. I might pick up other things written by this author. Year of the Witching. I think this is like one of the first ever books I read during 2025. I don't think I was entertained. I was bored. I'm gonna say it was a pain to finish. It was depressive. It had to do with witches. It had to do with women suffering. I honestly, it's forgettable. I don't think I can say much about it. I don't know why I pushed through. Anyways, whatever. Oh, now I remember one of the first ever books I read during 2025, like the start of the year, was The Rescue by Nicholas Sparks. I've never read a Nicholas Sparks book before. I know he's a famous author, but I still picked it up because my Japanese friend who lives in Japan, she reads this author's books because they're easy to read. The plot is simple and you can easily follow along without being too confused about what's happening or like what's happening to the characters and stuff like that. And during 2025, I was visiting her in Japan. So I wanted to read the book and finish the book so that I can like meet up with her and talk about it so that she can also also talk about the book and also practice her English. It was fun. Not my type of book. I mean, I was entertained, but it is very forgettable. I really don't see myself picking up other Nicholas Sparks books. But anyways, let's move on. Harry Potter. Okay, it's been years that I've been trying to get into the Harry Potter universe. I did watch all the movies growing up while they were playing on TV, but never like purposely. I would never like take a video cassette or like a DVD and actually like put it in and like watch it. I never got into that universe and I never read the book. So I told myself if I have time and because they're like available on the Libby app, I would like read through all the books. You can kind of see here that I own some physical copies. I hate the author. I'm not even gonna say her name because she's a freaking bigot and transphobe. I tried. I don't like her writing style. I like the world, but like I mean like just move on, okay? It's okay if you were a fan like 20 years ago while you were a kid. That's fine. I know a lot of people love Harry Potter. That's okay. You do you, boo. Personally, I tried getting into it. I had read up to the third book. Which one is this? Prisoner of Azkaban. I think that's like the third book of the series. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I was entertained, but it's like forgettable. And I do see myself selling my Harry Potter copies because I don't want her garbage on my shelves. Oh, I want to talk about, okay, the next thing I want to talk about is Heavenly Tyrant. I remember loving the first book of the series. I think it's going to be a trilogy or they're going to be 4 books out. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I remember binge reading. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Iron Widow. I loved it. I binged it in like less than a week. I even bought the physical copy of the book as soon as it was out, full price, which I never do. And I loved it. Second book, I don't know why. It was a drag to go through. Maybe because we didn't have all the main characters and we had another guy, love interest, main character. It was a pain. It was a pain to read through because I was missing the OG2 love interests. I mean, I still love the mecha world building that the author did for the universe. I'm still gonna It was a drag to finish, but I'm gonna place it in 4 stars. My hopes were high because I love, love, love the first book. I think it's one of my favorite books ever. My hopes were high. Maybe that's why I got a little disappointed. I'll still place it in the 4 star tier. It's almost perfect. It was still entertaining, very, very entertaining to read. I do see myself picking up the next book when it eventually comes out. Next, I want to talk about The Incandescent by Emily Tesh. I think I DNF'd this. The premise looks really interesting because for once we're following a character who's not a teenager in high school or like in college. We're following a teacher for once in a magic school system. She's a lesbian. I think she has a crush on one of her coworkers. But nothing much was happening and I was bored and I wasn't really connecting to the main character. She wasn't that interesting to begin with. I told myself, you know what, close it, put it away, don't think about it anymore. Oh, speaking of DNFs, The Devils, I picked this up towards the end of the year. I never read a Joe Abercrombie book before, so I had high hopes about any book written by him because all I've heard about this author are good things. But I DNF'd it. I think I read up to like 20%, but it was torture. It was a drag going through because all the characters are unlikable. They're all complaining. They're all talking about shit. They're all talking about boobs. They're all talking about. Also, the writing style was very annoying. At one point, a character was describing a neighborhood or something, and he was saying, "Oh, there are bars, there are prostitutes, and there are saloons, and there are prostitutes, and there were bad restaurants and prostitutes." Like, okay, I get it. And then the author does the same thing again for a later chapter. Not only was I not enjoying the writing style, none of the characters were interesting to me. None of them are likable, and they were all complaining, vomiting, fighting. I don't know. It was all weird. But I really, really had high hopes for this one because we had magical creatures, we had magic wielders and vampires. The book has everything, but the writing style, like the cheesy jokes, it was really not for me. I have not given up on Joe Abercrombie. I do see myself picking up other books from this author. Maybe this year I'm going to tell myself to at least pick up another one and see how it goes. Ooh, Raven Scholar. I'm going to say it right off the bat. I DNF'd it. It took me not even 10 chapters to decide this. I did not like the writing style, did not like the main character. I know a lot of people loved this during 2025. I did not see myself like liking the main character. And I watched a few videos of other people also talking about this book, and they said that the main character is not the brightest, and also the writing style and also how the characters are written feels like they're all in their like teens or early 20s, but actually they're all like 30 plus. And sometimes the main character is a little dumb and she doesn't like get simple clues. I did not push myself to keep reading. The Color Purple. Now this is a book that came out back during the 80s. I don't know why I kept doing it to myself, but I kept picking up content, books and shows that had to do with women suffering. But at the same time, reading this made me really sad, but also hopeful at the same time because the writing style was beautiful and seeing this character grow. I think I'm going to place this in the 5 stars. I absolutely want to watch the movie. I loved the story. I loved following the main character. I loved seeing her grow, become independent. But also like the first half of the book was really was really sad for me because you just see a young woman, a little girl, like suffering in the hands of men. Men are just like there to make your life worse. They're just there to make you have a bad day. I recommended the book to my sister. Good fictional writing. Adored it. My eyes falling on These Violent Delights. I tried picking up this book 2 or 3 separate times. I didn't vibe with it. I DNF'd it. But unfortunately, I own a physical copy of this book. Every time I picked this up was in audiobook form on the Libby app, but I think maybe picking it up in like a physical form would make me read a bit more. But like, I find it so disappointing when I don't like a book, but I own it. I'm like, do I keep it? Do I just sell it? Do I just give it away? But like, I DNF'd it. I did not care about the writing style or the main character. I think she was like complaining a lot. Oh, Quicksilver. Okay. It was a pain for me to finish. I hate horny books. Why did I read it? Oh, I think maybe because my friend was planning on reading it and she loves spicy books. She loves romance. She loves okay? Like I said, I'm an asexual. I prefer having a main like political or like a fantasy plot with a maybe like romance subplot. But this, I did not like the main character. I don't know. Why did I keep reading? Maybe because this was before my era of stop reading a book if you're not finding it entertaining. But there are a lot of spicy scenes, unnecessary spicy scenes. I don't remember much about the plot. I think you will enjoy this if you like reading fantasy, if it has like a major romance subplot. I think you'll like this if you love romantasy. I told myself this upcoming year, during 2026 and onward, I will stop reading romantasy because I'm sick and tired of reading predictable romance stories in a fantasy setting, because the whole time I'm craving more information about the political system or like the magic system, but like we're spending so many chapters of just the two characters being horny. That's it. I hate predictability. Maybe it's my ADHD. I don't know. I'm gonna stop forcing myself to read these types of books. If you enjoy them, you do you, boo. If that's your thing, keep doing it. But I'm telling you, this is my opinion. If you're watching this, you're probably not asexual like me. So the way you think or like how your brain chemistry works is not the same. But anyways, please don't hate me. Oh, the Atlas 6. This is one of the books that I picked up towards the end of the year. I had high hopes about this book because it's like different POVs. We're in a dark academic setting. Boy, oh boy, I DNF'd this book so fast. I did not care about any of the characters. I hated the writing style, the premise. It was so slow. And I looked more into this book online, and a lot of people did not enjoy this book because they had high hopes, first of all, going in. And also, it's just like hot young people just complaining and just making out, and there's nothing much happening. And sometimes the dialogue does not make sense. I'm glad I dropped this. This looks really bad. Okay, let's switch to some manga. This is a series I normally would not pick up, but it was available on the Libby app. I got myself an iPad recently, so I was eager to read some manga on my iPad, okay? So I picked this up. Interesting writing style. Storytelling is very intriguing. I loved the art style, but like trigger warning, it has to do with the toxic relationship between the boy main character, who is like a middle school age or like an early high school age, and his mother, who's very emotionally dependent on him and on him being her sole emotional support. He can't do anything in his life without his mother's like approval. And at one point in the story, a death happens in the family and the mom is responsible. But like the way that she emotionally manipulates him, he has to keep it in and he can't out his mom to be the killer. And the toxic relationship grows, it festers, and you can't stop reading. The more you read, there's not a lot of dialogue, but the way that the artist drew all the panels, you could feel the anxiety that the boy is feeling and all the thoughts that are jumbled in his head. I think I binge watched the first 4 volumes of this series. I do see myself continuing this. I highly recommend this if you guys love psychological thrillers. I think I'm going to place these at like 4 stars. Like not my favorite manga of all time. No, actually, I read the 5 first volumes of the series, and very entertaining. I would not recommend this to people around me. And it's not my absolute favorite manga of all time, or not that memorable, and I don't see myself rereading this, so I'm not placing this at the 5-star level, but 4 stars is a decent rating. Oh, actually, I read 6 volumes. Really good. I think I read all the volumes that were available on the Libby app. Very good. Oh, I want to talk about Yoke next. Oh, Yoke. I read this knowing nothing about the story. And Mary H. K. Choi, I think this is the first book from her that I have read. I know a lot of people are fans of her writing style and her previous books. I think there are like 2 books that has had to do with depression and romance. Not really my cup of tea, but this one had a premise that I found intriguing. So the premise of the book, if I remember well, has to do with 2 sisters who hated each other growing up. And they also have like a very toxic relationship between each other, but also like between them and their mom. And the main character finds out that her sister has some kind of cancer, but she does have a good job, but she doesn't have health insurance. So obviously, this is set in the US. The big sister has to disguise herself as the young sister to get free healthcare from her insurance. It's honestly, it was really annoying to read the conversation between the two sisters because they would be bickering and complaining this whole time. I kept reading because the relationship between the two girls were improving. It looked hopeful. And also the relationship between the mother and the sisters were getting kind of better. As an Asian myself, I have been in a similar situation as the girls, not as extreme. Like cancer was not involved. A similar situation as the sisters in the story, and it reminded me of my relationship with my sister. I kept reading because I felt hopeful reading it. They were becoming friends. They were getting closer, and I've noticed that I enjoy reading about family dynamics that started off really intense, really dark, and they work it out. And it looks hopeful because it gives me hope to work on my own family and my own family members. So I think I'm gonna place this at 4. I like the feeling that this book gave me. Speaking of family dynamics, I remember picking up Crying in H Mart. I picked it up because my friend was reading it and I knew nothing going in. Damn, this book is so depressing. Is there like a show or movie that was inspired by this book? Because I know this book was a huge bestseller when it first came out. A lot of people were reading it and talking about it. The main character has a very tense relationship with her mother, and reading about it really gave me anxiety. I kept reading because I wanted to see if the relationship between the mother and the daughter would get better. She is in her adult years, so I feel like it's a little too late to be changing that, especially a woman in her like 50s or 60s. I felt very sad finishing it. I was entertained. Like, it's not forgettable, but like I was entertained. I was depressed. I feel like 3 fits it better. Let's leave it at that. Oh, City of Girls. I remember reading this towards the first half of 2025. I loved this book and I loved following the main character. So the narrator is a old woman in her 70s, 80s who is telling us of her time in New York when she was in her teenage years or like her early 20s. I loved reading the first half of the book. I breezed through the first half. It was her time in New York where she got to experience like the nightlife and also workers who work during the nighttime. Something that I found annoying, but I think that that is what the author wanted us to realize, was that whenever the main character would get into trouble, she gets blamed. Even if like a man got her in trouble, the guy was never responsible. Nobody like shunned him. And it was always her getting reprimanded. I very much enjoyed this book. I see myself rereading it. I also see myself picking up other books from this author. I think I'm gonna place this in my 5-star reads, favorites of the year, because I couldn't stop thinking about this book and how it made me feel. A man is always the root of all problem. Ooh, okay, let me get it over with. The Coven. It looked interesting, but I didn't know anything going into this book, and I quickly found out that it was romantasy. It had to do with witches. I'm like, oh, a witches school setting. Oh, interesting. Dark academia. We quickly found out that it's a relationship between like a student, like the main character, and a teacher. It was hot and steamy right off the bat. I did not like that. And it felt like the romance was like the main plot and everything was not important, or like it could be dealt with after. I hated it. I think I DNF'd it like very quickly. And then I moved on. The Final Gambit. Ooh, I want to talk about this. I adored the first book of the series. We got to know the main character and we got to know more about like the 4 brothers, the 2 potential love interests and everything. But the second book was very unentertaining. Can't believe I own all 3 books of this trilogy. I very much enjoyed the first book. Second book I pushed through, and I told myself maybe the 3rd book of the series. I think it's a trilogy. Maybe it's more. I mean, the author did come out with more books, but I feel like the 3 books are like the main trilogy parts, because that's where like the main mystery ends. The 3rd book was a drag to go through. I did not care about the main character. I did not care about any of the relationships that were happening. And I was low-key kind of disappointed. Even though I'm not that into romance, I was low-key kind of disappointed into her ending up with a certain brother instead of the other one who was way more interesting and way more like calm-headed. Maybe because he's more my type than the other one. So I'm gonna was a pain to finish. Was a pain to finish. I told myself I'm going to finish this trilogy because I own it and I can finally close this chapter once and for all. Okay, The Invocations. I read this earlier during the year. I finished it, but it was a pain to finish. I did not care about any of the characters. I did enjoy the writing style. I think it was more of a brain dead audiobook that I was listening to while I was doing chores. I did not care about any of the three characters. I did not care what they were up to. I somehow finished it. I don't know how, I don't know why, but like I'm gonna put this at like 2 stars. I do not care about this book. A book I do care about is Serpent and the Wings of the Night. I think that is the first book, and the second book is The Ashes and the Esther Cursed King. I loved this book because the romance was not the main plot. Her having to win the competition was the main part, and also there was this like family mystery she had to solve. I love the interaction between the male interest and her because they started off as acquaintances and then they took the time to be friends. We had time between them falling in love and like being friends. It wasn't insta love or anything. The fact that they became friends at first really convinced me on the relationship. It wasn't like romantic-y insta love right off the bat, and they were not fucking because they found each other interesting. They were actually like in love with each other. I think I'm gonna place this in the 5-star tier. Loved it. I picked up the next book right after finishing the first one. I was low-key disappointed. I was entertained, but it was very forgettable. I can't even remember what happened in the second book. I loved the first book. I can tell you exactly what happened in the first book, but second book was a drag. I think we also got the POV of the guy. I don't know why fantasy authors do this. Speaking of different POVs, One Dark Window, the first POV, there's only one POV in the book. Like you follow the girl and she hears the voice of the demon in her head. But then my friend told me, who is also like currently reading the second book, she said that thinks she won't be enjoying the second book as much because there are 3 different POVs in the book. We see the guy's POV, the main character's POV, and also like the monster's POV. I really don't care about a guy's thoughts. Oh, I want to get rid of like the Sarah J. Maas thing. Okay, I read these books before I knew anything negative about Sarah J. Maas. She's racist. I do not give a shit about her. I don't even plan on picking up her ACOTAR series, which is literally fairy porn. Like I said, I'm an asexual. I don't see the interest in reading those books. I prefer reading more fantasy with no romance or a little bit of romance. I'll still be honest with you guys. I very much enjoyed the second book of the series, which was Crown of Midnight. I enjoyed it more than the first book, Throne of Glass. After a few months, I picked up Hair of Fire, which was, oh my gosh, which was a bore to finish. I was very close to DNFing it because in this book we get different POVs. I know this book is a favorite of many because you see different POVs, you get new characters. I did not care about the other characters, other POVs, and I did not enjoy the main character in this book. She was sad and pathetic this whole time. She was depressed. I'm like, frickin' snap out of it, do something. And we got a new love interest. I did not care about him. Anyways, I'm gonna put this. It was literally a pain to finish because I borrowed the audiobook from my Libby app, and it took me 3 weeks to drag myself to the 50% mark. And then I was like, no, past the 50% mark. And then I was like, oh, I'm not gonna like DNF it because I've invested so much time in this story. It got returned from the app and then I reserved it. And then I had to wait 2 months for it to get it back. And then I finally finished it. I was doing other things while I was listening to the audiobook. I don't know, I'm gonna have to stop continuing books that I don't enjoy. I will not be picking up this series, mainly because the story is not interesting to me anymore, and also I don't like the author. I'm very glad that I don't own any of her books, and we're gonna leave it at that. Okay, I want to talk about Light Lark next. I started this book thinking that this would be one of the generic romantasy books that I would push through, but I was actually invested in the main character and in the relationship between her and one of the love interests. The world building is very interesting, and the challenges that they had to go through were very entertaining to me. I was looking forward to the next chapter as I kept reading, and this book had multiple plot twists, and one of the major plot twists really got me. And I do see myself picking the next book up this year. I think I'm gonna place this in the 5-star tier. Yeah, one of my favorites. I love the plot twist. I like the relationship between the love interest and the main character. They did take the time to become friends before thinking about falling in love with each other, which I really enjoy. I hate, like I said, insta love. Get that shit away from me. What is this book? Can't spell treason without T. This was so boring. I think this book was trying to become Legends and Lattes. It was trying to be like fantasy, cozy fantasy. It was very boring. It was not cozy. It was boring AF. I remember like DNFing it, and let's leave it at that. Very unforgettable. I did not care about it. Let's DNF it. Oh, do I talk about Belladonna? Okay. Okay. I loved Belladonna. Oh my gosh. This is a dark gothic. It's not romantic-y. Was the romance the main plot? It wasn't. It wasn't. I mean, romance played a huge part in it, but for once, I was enjoying a fantasy with heavy romance in it because I did give a shit about the love interest and the main character. The intrigue was very well done, and I never could have guessed who the main like culprit was, the killer was. There were so many plot twists, one after the other. The story was very well written. For once, I do give a shit about the couple that we get at the end of the book. I do see myself picking up the next book ASAP. I think I have it reserved on my Libby app. I want to read it ASAP as soon as I have it available to me. This is hands down one of my favorite reads of 2025. 5-star. 5-star. There you go. The Bear and the Nightingale. Let's talk about it. I have never read a book that was set in a Russian setting, very cold, very atmospheric. I loved the writing style and all the monsters we come across in this book. I loved the Vasya. I loved the main character called Vasya. She was very entertaining to follow, very beautifully written. The whole time I was wondering who the love interest will be of the main character, and for once I was wrong. And for once, romance was barely present in this book. I think it's going to be more present during the second book. I'm still hesitating if I want to pick up the second book. I do own the 3 books in this trilogy, and I think eventually when I make a dent in my physical collection and I run out of books to read, I might pick them up. Oh, also, I felt so cold reading this book. Like I said, very atmospheric. The author writes very, very well. It's not a 5-star read, but it is a solid 4. I'm going to leave it at that. The Floating World. I remember loving this book. I remember loving this book, reading this. I forgot about it. I can't remember one thing. So like, do I place it in 3 stars because like I was entertained, but it's forgettable? But I remember really, really loving it to the point that I even left a review. So I'm going to place this at 4. And I also remember wanting to pick up the next book soon. Oh, Trash! So Brandon Sanderson. Also, I am telling myself to read more Brandon Sanderson book during 2026. I did start reading, where is it? Where is it? I don't have it with me here right now, but I do plan on reading The Way of Kings this year. Very chunky book, but I have like the little pochette edition, so I can easily put it in my backpack. Tress was a beautifully written world. I loved following the main character. The plot twists were very entertaining. The world is very interesting because there's no big bodies of water. It's just like these spores where you can't mix water with, or else they just explode or they grow roots and stuff. Very dangerous world. But I will say it is almost perfect. It's not a 5-star read for me because I have read better books from Brandon Sanderson than Tress. So I'm going to place it at a 4, but it is a 4.5 star. And not to me. I liked the main character. I'm going to place it at the 4-star tier. The main character was very smart. very well educated. She wanted to become a doctor in a world where only men can go to university and get higher education. And we were solving mysteries. There was also like a little romance moment. I don't know why, but I don't know why, but reading this book made me feel like I was back in my teen years, and I was reading like this cutesy mystery, gothic romance, and I was entertained. I see myself picking up the next book. I know it's a duology, and I think this happens in Europe, in the UK, but I think the book 2 happens in America. Okay, next I want to talk about Dungeon Crawler Carl. I very, very recently finished this book. This was so entertaining to not read because I listened to the audiobook. It felt like I was mentally watching a shonen anime. It had so much action, you barely had time to breathe. It was really fun following the two duos, a very muscular man wearing boxers the whole time, and also a very talkative cat. And I loved the premise of the story, and a lot of people said that listening to the audiobook was the best experience for the story. And I'm glad I did, because narrator does an awesome job doing all the voices. I do see myself picking up the next book and maybe finishing the series. I don't know how many books there are, but they're very, very entertaining to listen to. Definitely a 5-star read for me. Can't stop thinking about it. Ooh, let's talk about This Is How You Lose the Time War. I know a lot of people love this book. A lot of people hate this book. It's a little 50-50. I really wanted to start and finish this book before the year ended, because I was stuck at 67 book completed on my Goodreads challenge, and I didn't want to leave it at 7. So I speed read this book and was really entertaining. Love story between two time travelers who are on opposite teams, and they write letters to each other. The book is very poetic, and I thought I would get tired of the flowery writing. It really stuck to me, and I was finding it very interesting. I thought it would be the same thing as When the Moon Hatched, because it was flowery writing just for the sake of flowery writing. But now in this scenario, the writing made sense. The author writes beautifully, and she conveys so much emotion and so many information in a few sentences. I loved reading the letter parts of the story, but also like the normal text where you see one of the two characters doing her job and sabotaging things or building stuff to change the timelines. Very interesting to read. Loved it. I'm still on the fence about rating this book because I love the concept and it did a very good job entertaining me. Something is telling me not to place this as a 5-star read, but like I will still be recommending this to people. I think I'm going to rate this as a 4.8 star. Oh, okay. Next, I want to talk about The Eccentric Doctor of the Moonflower Kingdom. A very cute premise. We talk about healing people and Chinese medicine. I remember picking this up because I finished watching the Apothecary Diaries, like the second season of the show, and I was craving more Apothecary Diary content. I picked it up. It was good, but not as engaging as, of course, the Apothecary Diaries. I didn't really connect with the main characters. The art style is gorgeous, though. Beautiful. I think I'm going to place this at 3 stars. I was entertained, but it's forgettable. I didn't pick up the second volume right away, so that also tells you guys how attached I was to the story. Okay, 3 more to go. I want to talk about the manga that's left, called Sakura Saku. I liked the premise. It's cute, but nothing is driving me to pick up the next volume. The main character is a sweet little girl in high school, and she wants to make everybody happy and do good deeds. Art style was cute. I'm gonna place this in. I was entertained, but it was forgettable. Ooh. Okay, which one? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay, let's talk about Stars and Smoke. I love Mary Lou's writing style. It always feels like I'm watching an anime. The characters were very interesting. I loved following them, both of their POVs. I feel like the story was pretty short. It could have been longer. We could have had other subplots happening. They fell in love very quickly. That's why I think the story could have been longer. One is a secret agent. The other one is a world famous superstar, but they have to work together to complete a mission. And I enjoyed the banter between the two characters, the plot twists. It was kind of predictable. Like, I think like I would have been like blown away if I was like in high school. I kind of saw the plot twist coming. I kind of quickly figured out who the evil mastermind was, but the plot twist was still very entertaining. I do see myself reading more about these two characters. I mean, the book, I want to place this at 5 stars because I binge read this. I was very, very much entertained, and I love Mary Lou's writing style. Okay, I'm kind of biased. I want to still put this at 5 stars. And I love the cover. I love that I own the book. I've been thinking about the story a lot ever since I finished it. This is the last before book I completed before the year ended. Thrum. I randomly came across this book like on TikTok. A lot of people were talking about this in a book talk video. It's a novella, science fiction. I didn't like the insta-love romance attraction part of it, but the psychological thriller and the psychological horror aspect of the story was very well done. The ending made me want to throw up. I was very, very much entertained. I was cringing during like the romance parts, but I'm gonna place this at tier 4. But it is very close to being perfect. I very much enjoyed the plot twists in the story. So yeah, these are all the books that I have picked up this year. Thank you so much for watching, guys. This video is getting very, very long. We have finished the first part of the video. Sorry for making this super long. I love yapping and I want to get better at yapping. So thank you so much for listening to me so far. Okay, so before I start, I want to talk about my reading goal for 2026. I would love to read, once again, 52 books this year. Something that I really want to get back into doing is book journaling. And I want to stop mindlessly consuming. I told myself every time I finish a book, I would love to write about it in my little book journal before starting a new one, because or else I'm just like mindlessly consuming and I end up reading books that I don't enjoy and I just push through and it's just torture at the end. And what's the point of reading something that you're not enjoying? So I'm going to do that more often. I've noticed that during 2025, I had read a lot of audiobooks and books on my Kindle, and I've barely read books from my collection. I want to like do it differently this year because I've counted how many books I have in total on my shelves, and that is 486, and 100 of those are manga slash comic books. And in all my collection, I still have 200 unread books. I want to change that this year, and I want to stop mindlessly consuming instead of like spam listening to audiobooks and reading on my Kindle. I want to be more mindful of all the physical material that I own and actually enjoy them. So this year I'm challenging myself to read more physical books from my library, at least one book per month. 12 books, not that bad. Also, another thing, I'm really proud of myself for not buying any books during the year of 2025. The whole time I was like, I have enough books and I'm running out of space. So let's keep it at that. I told myself after counting books, if I see that I have read more than 50%, then I might consider to buy more books. But at the same time, what's the point of buying more if I'm not even consuming from my stash that I already have? So by the end of the year, I would love to make my unread and read proportions 75 versus 25. That specific number, because that's when I can actually permit myself to look at other books and buy other books. And also I've been eyeing other e-readers. I already own a Kindle. Okay, it's the black and white version. I don't want to consume more stuff that I don't need. It would be nice, I admit, to buy either the Books Go color or the Big Me color version so that I can read webtoons and manga and comic books on my reading device. I think I'm gonna let myself buy one if I reach my physical reading goal. That way I get to enjoy what I already have and I'm not like buying more shit that I don't need. You get my point. Also have a lot of like manga book sets that I haven't even opened. Like the plastic is still wrapped all over the book set, so I'm gonna try to read one of them. I think just making a huge dent on my manga and comic collection will make a huge difference on my unread and read like stats. But anyways, wish me luck on that. Let me know if you guys want a mid-year update on what's going on with my reading journey. Also for this upcoming year, I would love to post more read aloud books. I have always believed that I have a speech impediment, so making videos and talking about my interests and also thinking out loud really helps me pronounce my words well and enunciate words well. Am I even English well? Making these videos really help me. And thank you for watching. If you have watched until the end, stay tuned for more videos on the channel. If you have any video ideas for me or more content you would like to see from me, please drop them down in the comments below. For those who don't know, I am also a variety streamer over on Twitch. I also have a movie reaction channel on YouTube, and I also make content on TikTok. And yeah, that is it for today. I think this video is long enough. I really appreciate you guys watching until the end. Please take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!